sing together. First Chronicles, chapter number 12. We're going to look at the first two verses, and then we're going to go to verse 21 and read through verse 40. Y'all ready? Now I'm going to be reading from the Amplified. This will be just a little bit different, but you'll still be able to understand. But this is what it says. Verse 1, these are the ones who came to David at Ziklag while he was yet concealed himself because of Saul, son of Kish. They were among the mighty men, his helpers in war. Notice it says these are the ones. Are you the ones today? Verse 2 says they were bowmen and could use the right hand or the left to sling stones or shoot arrows from the bow. They were of Saul's kinsmen of Benjamin. Now look at verse 21. They helped David against the band of raiders, for they were all mighty men of courage. All 7 became commanders in his army. For at that time, day by day, men kept coming. Day by day, men kept coming. Day by day. Sister Maria, they kept coming. Look at your neighbor and say they kept coming. You can be seated. They kept coming to David to help him until, this is what I like about this, especially you ministers. I want you to hear this. They kept coming until there was a great army, like the army of God. So you can't tell me that it cannot be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now in this particular text, they were coming to help David because God had rejected Saul as king and made a decision that now is David's time. Look at your neighbor and say, just hold on and be faithful. Your time is coming. I don't think they heard you. Let me talk to you, Brother Zach. Hold on and be faithful. Your time is coming. I don't think they heard what I said. Let me tell Zach that again. Hold on, Zach, and you be faithul. For your time, Zach, is coming. They kept coming. Listen, watch this, what it says, verse 22. For at that time, how many know what time it is? See, most folk don't even know what time it is. We need men who know what time it is. Let me put it to you this way. We need a church that know what time it is. They kept coming until there was a great army like the army of God. Look at verse 23. These are the numbers of the armed divisions who came to David at Hebron to turn the kingdom of Saul to him. According, watch this is according to the word of the Lord. This wasn't according to man. This wasn't according to man. This was according to the word of the Lord. Those of Judah who bore shield and spear were 6,800 armed for war. Those of Simeon, mighty and brave warriors, 7,100. Those of Levi, 4,600. Jehoiada was the leader of the Aaronites. These were priests. And with him were 3,700. And Zadok, a young man mighty in valor, and 22 captains from his own father's house. Of the Benjaminites, the kindred of King Saul, 3,000. Hitherto, the majority of them had kept their allegiance to Saul and the charge of the house of Saul. Of the Ephraimites, listen to this one, 20,800 mighty in valor. Look at your neighbor and say, they just kept coming. These were famous in their fathers' houses. Verse 31, of the tribe of the half tribe of Manasseh, 18,000 who were mentioned by name to come and make David king. Now here's my favorite group of men. Here's my favorite group of men. Look at verse 32. And of Issachar, men who had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do. Men, everybody look at me for a minute. Men who had understanding. And when I talk about men, I'm talking about families. I'm talking about the body of Christ. I'm talking about we, the church as a whole. Having the understanding of the times. Knowing what season we're living in. And when you can get people, Josh, that know what time it is. In other words, watch what it says here when it talks about them knowing the season, knowing the times. Now watch what it says. To know what Israel ought to do. We need people today that know what we ought to be doing. It ain't no time to be playing around. Every time, Serena, I pick up the newspaper. Every time I read an article in the newspaper, it's not good news. Every time I listen to the news on television, every time I see CNN, ABC, NBC, it's not good news. We need people to know what we need to be doing, what we ought to be doing. It's no time to be playing around. Can I finish? There was 200 chiefs in this group of men, and all their kinsmen were under their command. Of Zebulun, verse 33, there were 50,000 experienced troops, fitted out with all kinds of weapons and instruments of war that could, what? Order and set the battle in array. Men not of double purpose, but stable and trustworthy. We eliminated the church right there. Men not of double purpose or double-minded. 1 minute they this way, 1 minute they next. 1 minute we in church, the next minute we're not. 1 minute we're taking care of home, the next minute we're not. And if we're going to talk about men, the women and children got to know that they got a man that's going to take care of business. Not in good times only, but in... David had men surrounding him, Josh, that knew what time it was and knew, watch this, he didn't just have men that were not experienced, but he had men who were experienced in war. See, if we're going to fight, I'm not going to have somebody fight with me that ain't never been in a battle. So all the men that came and surrounded him, they were experts. They could sling a bow from the left side or they could sling a bow from the right side. Because sometimes the enemy, he need to know, he don't need to know which way you coming every time. If you're used to going down the right side of the road, the enemy, he's going to always set up a trap on that side. But you got to be able to go to the left side sometime.